Okay, so Mike, this is the 14th year of the Innovation and the 7th year of the Invention Index. What prompted Idea Pharma to launch these indices, and why do they remain something that we invest our time in?
Well, it's one of those kind of happy accidents, really, because we've always been in the innovation space, and typically provided a lot of good advice to companies in early stage. But when I just asked one of those sort of dumb questions of, what is innovation and how do we measure it? There were lots of different answers, but there was no good answer. So we said, look, let's go for a classical definition of innovation, which wasn't the one that the industry used, because we went for a classical definition, which was the creation of value from invention. And, the industry had focused a lot on really invention, so creation of pipelines and technologies associated with that versus the sort of realization of commercial value, which was a lot more interesting to me. So we started that then, but there was this also other dumb question at the same time, which was if you gave the same molecule to two companies at the same time, would they both end up equally valuable on the market? And we felt that the answer was probably no. But the industry tended to behave as if the answer was yes, right? If you gave the same molecule to two companies, they'll do equally well. So yeah, we've had a great run at testing both of those, hypotheses. Are some companies good at one thing versus another? And that case study, that kind of same molecule, two companies, has been run time and time again. And we were right. The answer is definitely no. It doesn't end up in the same place.
Great, thank you. And so great question. If you gave the same molecule to two different companies, would they be equally successful? Yeah. So what have been some of the key trends that we've observed over the years that we've been launching the index?
Well, I think we've, one thing that was very apparent as soon as we started looking at really any of the case studies, the immuno-oncology case studies, the GLP-1s, is that, very similar molecules end up in very different places on the market, depending on, time of entry, quality of entry, in terms of the TPP and the indication set. If we go back 15 years, there was a lot of pessimism in the industry about, would there ever be any more blockbusters? And you go, well, look, we've got $20-30 billion drugs now per year, not just over a lifetime, which no one was predicting that all that time ago. I took a bet with someone about that and said that we're going to see a lot of $5 billion drugs soon, and they were like, "No, where's that going to come from?" So I think a lot of kind of received wisdom in the industry is wrong most of the time. So it's good to challenge that. But we're seeing the emergence of biotechs, and we've got some biotechs that have made their way into our index. I think we're starting to see China becoming more important.
Yeah.
But yeah, I know we've got the COVID years as a kind of bubble in some of the vaccine companies. But that was that equally was a great test of innovation and invention. Was could you create value from a standing start? And we saw some companies that were able to organize themselves well enough to do that, and some that missed out on the real opportunity. So, but we've got great kind of consistency from some companies as well. Obviously won't reveal this year's results yet, but we see companies like AstraZeneca, J&J, for 14 years now, they've been there or thereabouts, despite predictions that they would decline and fall over that time. So it's it's good to see good leadership continue to deliver results for those companies.
Great, thank you. So another question I have is that since we launched the index back in 2011, it's really grown in stature. And we also know that leading pharma and biotech companies look at the index as a benchmark of success. Why do you think that is?
Well, the first year we ever published it was, we thought this was almost an exercise for ourselves. So we did put it out there in the world, but we didn't make any fuss about it. And the interesting thing was J&J came first in the innovation index that year. And about a week later, we got a letter from Paul Stoffels, who was head of R&D at J&J, saying, "Thank you, this is great recognition." and we'd like to learn more about the factors that contribute. So it was a real kind of validation of our belief that this was something meaningful to measure, and it was something that companies could get better at if they wanted to. And over the years, I think it really was important for us to separate the practices and disciplines of innovation and invention, and to focus on them, because our belief and idea is that the creation of value from a molecule in a pipeline is not obvious. You can't just let it drift itself towards market and hope that the market's going to care. You have to be very deliberate about the TPP, about the kind of commercial profile. So we've essentially we've spent 14 years now learning what pharma does well and what it doesn't do so well, and observing this sort of difference in the industry. People talk about average costs of launching and developing medicines. You go, well, look, that doesn't apply to any company really. There's like this huge range of costs per molecule between the companies. So why would you put that number into an NPV? Because it doesn't mean anything to you. So companies are reluctant to get into those established kind of practices, but you really do need to, if your company has proven that you can do this for $1 billion per molecule, then your commercial model is very different. So it's I think we can't ever now, especially take anything for granted in our industry. We've got to look at better ways of thinking about what we take forward, what we leave behind, and how we go to market now as well.
That's great. So it's also really about challenging the status quo and looking at things that can be done differently to serve patients and physicians better. Yeah, thank you.
Well, we've always said internally there's no such thing as an average pharma company, and that really is true. They seem different on the outside, then you get inside and you realize just how different culturally, scientifically they can be.
Great, thank you. So with all the current uncertainty that underlies and potentially threatens true innovation in our sector on a geopolitical level, this year's index feels particularly important to ensure we keep driving innovation and invention. Do you agree with that?
Yeah. I was talking with someone yesterday about the new leadership of the FDA, for example, and what the kind of reality is when that kind of big change happens. I mentioned COVID before, and this was literally unprecedented for our industry to be able to kind of collect and think and respond. I believe that the American market's probably going to look a lot like it does now in 5 years' time, but the way we get there, will change. So if you've got a company that's flexible and you've got a company that's open to changing practices and behaviors, there's likely to be good times ahead. I think we've seen some big companies fall away over time, and the rise of the biotechs, but really the biotechs have got no track record in launching and remaining successful. So, what a great time to be alive and watch the kind of evolution of a business model. That there's every potential that we could have 10 biotechs in the leadership in 5-10 years time. But why would you not bet on AstraZeneca to be there again?
Exactly.
Or Lilly or Pfizer. They've proven that they've got some magic inside their buildings that's keeping them alive.
Yes. No, I think it's spot on. Also in terms of, you could say, the people and the infrastructure that needs to be there, and indeed being able to look forward into the opportunities. Yeah,
and we're lucky. The American regulatory environment might change, but the industry's wanted that for a long time as well. So it's we're sort of getting a little bit of what we want, and we might not be perfect, but this sort of change in approval times and approval rates. This is at least they are laid out and clear. So if we can take advantage of the Chinese sort of marketplace, which again we've got to learn, then I think that the messages of our index of paying close attention to what innovation means and how you get there, it only becomes more relevant year by year.